Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Good. Okay. So let's start out with meditation. So take your attention inside and pull it down below your belly button so you're not in your head. You may want to do what we're doing, which is stretch a little bit and just get in your body. Take a very deep breath. And now you are surrounded with pranic plasma, the energy of pure raw love from Annassa, from your own guardians and angels, and everyone who has ever loved you throughout lifetimes. And as you breathe in this golden white light into yourself, on your exhale, release anything that is part of a mental construct that believes that you are less than, unworthy, that you, anything that keeps you from knowing God completely with your entire being. Release that on your exhale. And inhale pure raw love, pure divine birthright. Every human being deserves this, and no human being deserves this. We're just completely fortunate to be here in it. Breathe it in and exhale anything that isn't that. And feel that love starting in the center of your chest and below your belly button. Feel it begin to inhabit your entire body. And don't worry, anything that you let go of, if you want to pick it up later, you can. Just let go of it for now. And now allow the energy to expand to your fingers and toes so that your whole body is completely pure pranic plasma, raw love. And now visualize in your chest, in the center of your chest, a tiny being the size of a thumb. Sitting on a lotus flower. And this tiny being is you in your completely realized state. You breathe into this being. And allow it to expand. Till it fills your chest Gently, gently allow it to expand to inhabit your entire being. Feel it coming into your arms and legs and down to your fingers and down to your toes until you are completely one with your completely realized self. And then you allow that being to expand, to occupy the entire room where you're sitting. So you can actually look down at your body. And then you expand to occupy your whole neighborhood. And then your entire city is within you. And now expand so that the entire earth is within you. And now move out to the entire solar system. Then the galaxy. Then the universe. And the multiverse. Until there is nothing but the vast expanse Now gently allow yourself to begin to come back. Through the galaxy, the solar system, the earth. And as you come back to the room, stop and look down at the being who began this meditation. And reach your hand down to touch the top of the head of the person who sat down to meditate. And pour pure raw love into that being. You have become love, loving itself. And then gently return all your attention to your body. And when you're ready, we'll begin our program. We welcome your questions. How may we serve today?
Rebecca?
Yes. Hello. Oh, we've lost your sound.
I've been pondering a question all week. And I was wondering if you could speak to the idea that the world I see around me is a reflection of my inner world.
Absolutely, that's true. We see the world the way we are. And the easiest way to understand that is that our matrix of belief determines how we interpret every input, every stimulus that reaches our being stimulates a part of our matrix of belief, which in response comes alive and we interact with that stimulus, but always from the point of view of our matrix of belief. And that matrix of belief often is out of date with our deeper understanding of who and what we are. And so these outer experiences trigger us to look deeper when we don't get what we're expecting, which is more love. When we don't get that, then we have to look at our matrix of belief and see what's holding us from really being pure raw love. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And looking at how I see the world, especially in the last few years, doesn't speak well to my inner awareness and probably the hold that my matrix of belief has on me. I see a lot of dark when I look at the world.
Well, this is a lot because we are transfixed by media. And media is perpetuating darkness. In case we haven't all noticed, that's happening. They don't write about the person who made 6 pies for all the shut-ins in their neighborhood, because that's not very good news. It doesn't excite people. It doesn't stimulate them to fear or anxiety, which is what traps people in more media. And so, in a very real way, we are being manipulated by our feeling of social responsibility that makes us read the news. Does that make any sense?
Yes, and I've heard from very respected people that you need to stay informed. And even though I try to stick to the news sources that seem to be giving a fuller, more nuanced perspective on what's happening, still I look out my window and I see that the drought has affected my garden and my trees, and I know what the stories are from all over the world, the Arctic and the famines and that sort of thing. And I don't know what good that information actually does me. I sometimes feel too informed.
Well, we all have this sense of social responsibility, meaning being informed. And so we're not against being informed. It's how you take that information. When you decide that you're not going to respond in fear, and you watch yourself whenever that fear begins to arise, you watch it and you step back and you say ho'oponopono to your fear. You allow it to be, you don't push it away, you welcome it, because the messages are meant to resonate with our fear. But here's the thing, say it's all true. And how we regard that truth is a matter of perspective still. But even if it's all true, and the planet is going to just disintegrate in 2 years, say it's all right here. When that happens, where do you want to be in yourself? That's the question. That's the real question. When we meet the end of our life, who do we want to be? How do we want to go to God? And so why don't we practice now who we want to be? Why don't we become that now? Because what have we got to lose? Really, what have we got to lose? Absolutely nothing. Nothing changes out there because of how we feel. But in our immediate circle, everything changes because of how we feel. And as we begin to expand, like this meditation, then our range of frequency also expands, and it might help another person to do same, to actually feel the love, become the love, and expand into that. The only way we're going to get there is starting here. And we can still be informed, but that doesn't mean that we have to live in fear. It's the fear and the depression, the sense of darkness, the sense of embracing everything as bad news. Maybe it's good news. We get to start over. We have no idea. It's our matrix of belief that interprets this stimulus and decides that it's a reason to stop loving ourselves and everybody else. That's the real problem. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And
It's really hard.
yeah, it's really hard to love enough. uh,
Well,
it
it
seemed to
starts at
be,
home.
I know it used to be easier at home even. Um,
Yeah.
it seems as though, well, here's an example. Our daughter disconnected from us 5 years ago, and our contact with our grandchildren has been sorely limited.
Mm.
I do talk to her at the Annassa temple, and I do try to keep myself on track about loving people. There are a number of people in my life that are extremely challenging. They're abusive even. Um, I'm slowly, well, my mom's in a relationship with a person who's yells at me repeatedly over really, I don't know, trivial things, misunderstandings, whatever. But he's just under a lot of stress, and I understand that. So trying to love him through that has been a challenge. And trying to love our daughter through whatever she's going through is a challenge. So it used to seem much easier to love the people in my environment, is all I'm saying.
Yes. Well, what we see is that you're not punishing yourself anymore. And that's the first step. That's really the first step, is stopping the self-punishment. When other people are having a hard time and take it out on us, we often use that as an excuse to feel less than and reduce ourselves even more by that experience. And so what we see is that you're not doing that anymore. Yes. So this is you loving yourself. And this is a huge, huge leap forward. Do you see it?
It still doesn't feel, it feels like a real challenge every time. I am looking forward to a day when it's just natural for me to love no matter what.
Well, how it becomes natural, how anything becomes natural is practice. And as you know, it's not an easy practice. It's really hard. It takes everything you have in every moment. And we all fail a lot. And that's okay. That's okay. That's how we learn. Everything that we learn by failure. And so the real thing is to stop reducing ourselves when we fail. Because all that's really required is that we continue to try. That's all that's required. Life does the rest. How much work did it take for you to begin to stop reducing yourself? It took a little bit, but then something just happened and you realized that that's the way. And now you just do it. And it's still hard, but you don't forget to do it, because that's become, we're challenging your saying that it's so hard because you remember to do it. And that's really the thing. And then once you get that, then it's just expanding that and expanding that. And the purpose of meditation is to check that it's still there in the morning, and then again before you go to sleep. You rest in that love. And if you feel like you're losing it, then you breathe it in from outside you in the pranic plasma. It's always there. It's always available. And we're made of that. That's why it's always available. We are that. Does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, it seems there's two levels. One is my immediate touchable environment, and the other is the world. And I'm going to have to do some examination of my relationship with the information that I get from the world about the world. I'm still not sure of my relationship to that. How I can even begin to improve that relationship.
Well, we have a few suggestions. One is, don't expect it to not be confusing. It's really confusing out there. There is nothing that feels particularly stable. And that's okay, because the truth is that we live in uncertainty. We do a lot to paper it over, but we never know what's going to happen next. And we don't think it's a good idea to focus on a doomsday message, because that just gets us all depressed. But the fact is that we are living in uncertainty, and all of us are going to die at one point or another in some way or another. But then the issue is still, who are we going to be between now and then? And what are we going to live from in ourselves? What are we really going to cultivate in our inner garden? And so it all starts there. And so the reference point always has to be our own center. And then from that center, we can be nourished by cultivating the forces that support our love, which are completely full and ready to nourish us at any moment that we choose to engage those forces. They are there. All we have to do is breathe in the pranic plasma. It's there for us. And that's the only place where faith is really appropriate, that pranic plasma is real. But, you wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't feel it every time you tune in. So you already know that, or you wouldn't be here. And it's just cultivating that, and that can make it really simple. And then you just don't expect anything outside to exactly make sense. But then you have your grounded self. You breathe into that expanded heart, that expanded belly button, and you feel your source as you face your life. And you understand that you want to live in the life you've been given, not the one you think you should have. And we all have difficult relatives. We all have it, unless we're really, really lucky. But I don't know anybody who doesn't have it, to tell you the truth. You don't see any of my relatives on this call.
Well, you do see one of mine.
Yes, two of yours, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty wonderful. And
It
I have
is
to
pretty
say,
wonderful.
my husband's in the room, so I'm lucky in that respect.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
I can include him. The matrix of belief I just realized that I have about the world, my relationship to the world, is that the world looks so awful and so sad and so doomed. I must be a real mess. And that's kind of the way that I've been seeing it. And what I'm hearing from you is that that's kind of backwards. And um, I'm not sure how to change it at this moment.
So you're right. It is backwards because the love is inside us. And that will be reflected as you become more of that. That will be more of your life. But we stop looking outside for our cues of how to behave, and we look inside, and here's the barometer. If something opens you up more to love, that's good. If something shuts you down, that's bad. Really simple. And then you still have this dictum that you need to be informed. Okay, so you choose your time and place to be informed, and you understand this is a time I'm going to expose myself to negativity from the outside. You understand that that's what you're doing, and then you try not to get any on you. Got it?
Yes, I do. That's going to take some sort of a shield.
Jujitsu.
Yeah, jujitsu.
Well, actually, it's like this. Amazingly enough, it doesn't work to try to put up shields. If you've noticed, things come in anyway. So here's the thing about the waves that enter your being. You have 90 seconds to decide how you're going to react to that wave. And if you identify with that wave of fear, say, they talk about a hurricane in Florida, and you suddenly get afraid because a hurricane could happen here, or, any world event, a shooting. I mean, there are hundreds of them that can make us afraid. So anything that we take personally, that we take on, that's a wave that we become, that feeling, because we've taken it on. So the thing to do is to allow these feelings to pass through us. And if we don't pick them up in 90 seconds, they don't even make a ripple. And this happens to us a lot, but we don't notice it. It's like a thing in medicine. People don't notice their symptoms by their absence. They notice them by their presence. So, if somebody heals from something, it's as though they never had it before, because they don't think about it because all the symptoms went away, right? Well, that's what it is when a wave goes through us and we don't pick it up. Oh yeah, that hurricane's happening in Florida, so I don't need to worry about it. That's when we don't pick up that fear. But we don't need to use tools like that isn't happening to us immediately. We can just recognize that this is fear coming in and we don't need to pick it up. Just because it gets handed to us doesn't mean that we have to become it. So it's actually very good training to allow these feelings to just go through us without identifying with them. And as you get more fluent with your own feelings, then you can begin to say, oh, this is that. I don't need that. You can actively participate. And this is what truly being a witness means. You go into a witness state in yourself, you sit in your own center, and you watch whatever arises in you. And you have a choice. Am I going to invest my attention in that thing, or am I just going to let it go? And the more you engage in that process and become accomplished at letting things go rather than taking them on, then the more choice you have in your life and the bigger your matrix of belief becomes. You know, we all have a matrix of belief, but the more we can expand it and the more we can make it flexible so that it doesn't judge everything and want to kill everything that walks into our environment, the better we are. The bigger we are, the more we can expand to accommodate those we say we love when they show up with diversity that we're not used to, which happens a lot in our relationships, if you notice. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. And I will have to meditate on it in order to be more clear about the process of witnessing instead of identifying with.
Well, it sounds like you have plenty of everyday communications that give you opportunity to practice this.
Well, yeah, I don't see many people, that's for sure. I will be seeing more. I just wanted to give an update. Our son and daughter-in-law are taking my mom to live with them. We remember at one point I said
Yes.
we were thinking of taking her here, but I didn't really feel capable. Well, all on their own, they offered. And so, yes, in the next month, she'll be moving in with them. And they are perhaps the most wonderful people I know.
Oh, this is such good news. And how far are they from you?
Farther, they're in the Salem area, and we're in Woodland, so more like an hour and a half rather than a 45-minute ride. But anyway, it's going to be such a better place for her. And the person who is verbally abusive to her won't be there.
Oh, we love this. This is really good news. Fantastic work.
Indeed. It wasn't me. I appreciate the heck out of it, though. It's
Yeah.
something that does bring me happiness amidst all the other things that are going on.
We feel the joy. This is fantastic. You know, feeling joy is the reward. It's the goal and the reward. Being able to access joy, even for an instant. What a gift.
Thank you so much for speaking to my question. It gives me a lot to absorb.
We love this conversation. Thank you so much for participating. We love it. We love you. We're so grateful to be here. How may we serve further?
With challenging relationships or situations, is the loving response always allowing, or can tough love be a loving response?
Oh, being loving doesn't mean you become a doormat. You still are responsible tough love is a form of love. We don't allow ourselves to be mistreated and call that love, ever, by anyone. That may not have been the question. Can you read it again?
With challenging relationships or situations, is the loving response always allowing? Or can tough love be a loving response?
Yes, tough love can be a loving response. You know, it's, of course, it's all circumstantial and depends on our role in the relationship. But we stand by everything we said. Allowing is not giving other people the room to treat us badly, ever. Now, when we get information that we don't want, things that we would rather not face from the people we love, there is this moment where we have to decide to face the life we've been given, not the one we think we should have. And that's a moment. And allowing is really important in that moment because that's how we begin to examine our matrix of belief. And so the beauty of most situations is that they don't require immediate response. And so we can take the time to say, I don't know how I feel, and actually examine our matrix of belief. Because many of the matrices of belief that we were given as children actually don't hold water when we sit down and examine them. And so it's important before we respond to some new information that we actually examine whether our immediate response is based in an outdated matrix of belief. So if we can expand our matrix of belief and actually come to a conversation involving disagreement with a more open mind and have a true conversation rather than two people reacting to each other, then there is the possibility for great change and great depth of communication. And this is what living relationship, how living relationship evolves with all parties continuously examining matrix of belief, willing to go deeper, willing to stretch the boundaries to begin to accommodate whatever's required for more full, dare we say, more intimate relationship. because the possibility for really cultivating relationship with another that begins to experience the realm of spiritual spiritual union, we'll call it. We just ran out of language. This is of the quantum, not the linear. And there's a certain place where in contemplating the expansion of matrix of belief, that happens. The language just disappears and suddenly there's only love. We know that's a conversation stopper. So we don't exactly know how to back out of it. So what we're going to say is that it all comes from cultivating open-heartedness, and that in the willingness to allow is an internal practice, and it's the willingness to allow yourself to fail. It's the willingness to allow yourself to examine your matrix of belief. It's the willingness to see that that matrix of belief is far too narrow for even you to live in, let alone all the people you are surrounded with, and allow it to change and expand and be different. And that comes from, that whole allowing is allowing ourselves to be more and more in the flow and less in the reaction. And as we were saying earlier about the waves coming in and just flowing through, that's what flow is. And then there are times when we're engaging in flow in communion with others and the energy is just pouring out of us. That's also flow. And so it comes in and it goes out and it expands and it contracts. And when it expands, we feel great. And when it contracts, we feel it and we think we've done something wrong. When in reality, it's just the out-breath in a different part of our being. So the expansion is totally wonderful. The contraction, we breathe through it. We understand it's part of the expansion. Nothing can expand forever. It's got to breathe in and out. And we participate in all levels of this flow. And so one area of our life can be completely expansive while another one is completely contracted. And this can happen in multiple ways throughout our being. And that's the way it is for most of us. It's been a little bit different because having this COVID experience for the last several years, a lot of us have had a lot more quiet time than we're used to. And that's been a great benefit because the stimulus has been a choice, how much we participate, how much we don't. And that's amazing. That's given us a lot of room to be different. How may we serve further?
There is a follow-up. Thank you. That's perfect. Signed, former doormat.
We love that. Did you hear that? The response was, thank you, that was perfect, from a former doormat. Hmm. It's easy to do. We all do it. In the name of allowing, we take some hits. Not necessary. How may we serve further? Hmm. We don't mind the silence. So we don't know why, but the topic of pain has suddenly come up. And there are all kinds of pain. Emotional pain. It's the one that's coming to mind. And, this can happen for a number of reasons. It can be a current experience that triggers some past, is usually what happens, or some terror that we haven't resolved in ourselves. So the first step with pain is to acknowledge that you're in it. Allow yourself to feel it. And then bring Ho'oponopono. And we have the Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. Thank you. And I love you. And then there are a few people that can't let go of the need for forgiveness. So we allow that too. If that feels right to you, it's very important that you honor it. And we bring Ho'oponopono to our pain. Because it's a powerful tool for transmutation. But we don't deny the pain. We don't push the pain away. We don't pretend it's not there. We honor the pain as information and an opportunity to practice transmutation. And it sounds simple, but it really hurts. And we completely acknowledge that. And the reason for the simplicity is it's the only thing we can remember in those moments. And it's a tool that works. And the most important thing in practicing Ho'oponopono is that we acknowledge in ourselves that this is an incredible act of courage as we do it. And as we do it, we begin to incorporate the practice of breathing pranic plasma. And allowing the density to pass through us. As we say Ho'oponopono, and you know, sometimes pain just comes. Some bubble has just released, and there it is. May not even have a name or a story or anything else. So we breathe. First of all, breathe into it. Feel the contraction, allow the contraction. I'm sorry to our deepest self. Thank you. I love you. And what we are doing is cultivating an intimacy with our deepest self. And we may have no idea where the pain comes from. Doesn't matter. And when that happens, we don't exactly need an explanation. Who wants to get all tangled up in it? And it's like a Chinese finger puzzle. You know, the more we pull, the more we get tortured. Best to just breathe. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Whatever order comes. How may we serve further? Wally, unmute yourself, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. Looks beautiful in Hawaii.
It is. The sun is actually shining. It hasn't in days and days and days. My question, and this may just be because I'm kind of literal minded, but with Ho'oponopono, I stumble over the idea that I get confused about what I am saying it to, and I have the idea that the the deepest self is not where the pain is, that the pain is at a more superficial level, and that's what I need to be speaking to be engaging with, like it's a, you know, an inner child or something like that, rather than source.
Well, here's how we see it, that you are actually speaking to source. You are speaking through whatever it is that is experiencing the pain to your highest self. Because what you want is union with your highest self, and your identification with the limitation, which is the pain, is what's keeping you from union. So you're apologizing to your highest self because that highest self and you are the same. It's just that there is this block. So you're talking through the block. If you just talk to the block, you're going to make it stronger. Right? Because wherever you put your attention, that's what grows. So you put your attention on source, which is beyond. Everything comes from source. So it's not that the pain is not source, but it's a cloud that's, you know, creating a lot of smoke so that we can't experience source except through that cloud. So we want to dispel the cloud by speaking directly to source. I'm sorry I'm not in contact. Thank you for being there anyway. I love you. You are my true love. And then source shines through. Does that make sense?
Speaking through the pain is where my confusion is.
Okay, so what he says is speaking through the pain is where the confusion is. So here's an image that may or may not help. You know the image of the mirror at the bottom, and we're clearing away the smoke from the mirror. So we're talking to the mirror of the absolute. And we're talking through the smoke, which is whatever obstruction appears, is smoke, because we know the real thing is source. We know it's there. We've experienced it by now thousands of times. And so we want to speak to God, Goddess. So that is who we are apologizing to, which is our highest self. And it's not that we're disconnected. It's impossible to disconnect or we wouldn't be alive. But we don't want to get all tangled up with the thing that's obstructing us. That's the level of the Chinese finger puzzle. We want to reach through that to source and speak directly to that. I'm sorry I'm not in full contact in this moment. I love you. Thank you for being there.
So would you say, so our, so if I'm in a problem solving mode, which I probably am in that situation, I want the pain to go away. Is it by restoring the practice is to restore the sense of contact, the feeling experience of contact, and then the pain dissipates sort of as almost as a side effect?
Okay, so the question is, in saying Ho'oponopono to source, does the pain disappear as a side effect as we reestablish our connection? It may be a matter of semantics. The answer is basically yes. But the whole point is connection to source. That's the whole point. That's the reason we do it at all, is because we've lost that sense of flow, that sense of union, that sense of the open heart, of the open being. That's been contracted. And so we say Ho'oponopono as we breathe in pranic plasma and reestablish ourselves in communion with Source itself. Because we are that, it's just that the part of us that can participate has temporarily become unavailable. And so Ho'oponopono is how we transmute that contraction into flow. So there is this energetic experience of expansion and contraction, but we're not becoming contracted. in the exhale of it. Or if we do, then we say Ho'oponopono until we reestablish flow. But it's always about this flow, being in this flow. Does that make it more real?
Yes. And the pain, would you say that the pain is a symptom of the lack of flow?
Would we say that the pain is a symptom of the lack of flow? Absolutely. But you can have pain with flow too. There are some times when pain is just unavoidable. You know, things happen that just are really, really painful. Loss is painful. And we often have no say about that. And so we can just be in the pain, but we don't have to abandon the flow in that pain. We can accept the loss and accept the pain as part of the loss. And, you know, some pain just takes time. It doesn't just go because we want it to. So we can have pain with flow. You know, pain is part of the cost of being alive. But it doesn't need to cost our flow. That's what we're saying. We can always choose the flow. And we don't have to be in reaction to the pain. We can just live with it. And some pain is like that. You know, when a loved one goes, that just hurts. Because the quality of the love and the quality of the pain, that's just a glove turned inside out. You know, that's going to hurt. But when we understand that, then there's a bittersweet quality to it. Because there's nothing more beautiful than that connection. And all parts are welcome. That's our true message. All parts are welcome. We don't deny any of it. We don't try to clean it up and hide it. We just take it as it is, real. And that's what allowing is. Allowing is allowing it to be what it is. And we transmute as much as we can. But we always pay attention to the flow. The flow is our guide. And that flow is pure love itself. But, you know, our meaning of the word love and the way it's coming across may not be the same. So we need to expand our vocabulary, love, peace, joy, and gratitude. we hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Mm. We have totally enjoyed speaking with you. This is just so wonderful and so, so much where the rubber hits the road today. And we really value that, value it so much. So let's move into our meditation. So what we'll do at this point is move into transmission mode. So we'll be quiet. And we suggest that you use a mantra to stabilize your mind. The Om mantra or I am that, whatever appeals to you in this moment, but it's nice to breathe into your belly and use a mantra to stabilize yourself as you participate. And of course, as always, you can have your eyes open or closed. We are available. Thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful, beautiful time with you. Mm. Till next time. So much love.